Hey there. Welcome to Her Truth Revealed, Unraveling Our Midlife Era. I'm your host, Wonderful Morrison. This space is for the woman who's done pretending, done hiding, and ready to step fully into her truth. Midlife isn't about fading into the background. It's a time where resilience lights the way and authenticity becomes the loudest voice in the room. In this season of our lives, we are more than just survivors. We are creators, revolutionaries, and unapologetic women rewriting the rules. I've been through my battles, rebuilding from loss, betrayal, and heartache. But here's the truth. Every challenge, every tear, and every setback has led me to this moment of profound transformation. Together, we're going to dive into raw, real conversations that shatter stereotypes, tackle the tough stuff, and embrace the powerful magic that is midlife. So, if you're ready to live this chapter with boldness and joy, hit subscribe. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it and leave a review so we can keep this revolution going. Ladies, no more masks, no more apologies, just the truth of who we are. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to another amazing episode of Her Truth Revealed, Unraveling Our Midlife Era, where our conversations are touching on things we all know about, things that's happening in the midlife with menopause and hormones and all that. And in other places that might not be as openly spoken about, emotions, the transformational journey, transitions, things like, should we already have figured our life out at this age? No. So my goal is to get women on this show to have their conversations of their journey and what they're experiencing and how it's unfolding in their lives. Because even if it sounds relatable to you, it's not the same. It's not the same journey at all. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing the podcast. Oh my gosh, you guys are the most amazing audience that we are able to reach the top 10% global rating because you share, you comment, and you review in such a beautiful way. So I just want to take time to say thank you to my audience for the love and the commonality of me too, sis, me too. Today, I'm so excited to bring my friend Trish on the show because she's going to talk to us about something. As we are in our midlife, risk is greater because it has more weight, y'all. And she's going to really dig deep in her own personal journey of why this is a conversation we need to be having. So I just like to welcome Trish to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to a really great, authentic conversation on this topic.
Yeah, me too.
Trish for everyone. And I am a body language strategist, and I'm also a life coach that specializes in women stepping into their greater selves, mastering their confidence. So that's kind of my little niche in the world.
Yay. And I know you all heard that, right? Body language. I mean, that's such a big part of our generational curse as women, right? The good girl syndrome, the keeping it down. Let me tell you, my first conversation with Trish was amazing. She goes, you know what? I've been told my whole life I'm too much. And really, let's talk about that and why our conversation is moving into why does risk have so much weight in our midlife? Right? So from being too much all your whole life to now risk being such a bigger space to take.
I think we have to start with number one, everyone, just to let you know, I'll be 65 in July. So I'm in the third chapter of my life. But how it started is I had a very big personality. And a lot of people said I was too much because I knew what I wanted. I knew what to do to get it. So if you ask me, where do you want to eat? I knew where I wanted to eat. What movie do you see? I knew myself and I knew what I wanted. But a lot of people in life are the people you ask questions. They go, I don't know. I don't care. And let me give you a tip. You may don't care and you may not know, but we care. because that's the only way we get to know you and get to know what your likes are and what you want to do and what you want in life is by you telling us what your likes are or what you want to do by speaking your opinion. Otherwise, you're a blank sheet of paper to us. But going back to the too much, because most of my life I was told I was too much. Everyone wanted me to fit into this box. You're too loud, bring it down. You're too boisterous, bring it down. You're too happy, bring it down. You're dreaming too big, bring it down. Everyone wants you to fit in that societal box that Dave Carnegie talks about in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And so whenever you try to get outside the box, people will sabotage you. People will talk about you. Because if we're trying to up level our lives, then they have to look, why am I not? I'm scared. I don't want to.
Right.
Please come back down to this level. So most of my life, and I think for most of the women in my age groups in our 50s and 60s, especially, we kind of paved the way for some of the 30 and 40-year-olds, is that we didn't get to live the lives we dreamed of when we were girls. My mom wanted to be a pilot at a time when women weren't pilots, so we're told that we can be nurses and teachers and secretaries and receptionists. So most of us have been in business in a field that was safe and fitted the domesticated box, right?
Yes.
And so then we're getting into our 50s and we're 60s and we're not fulfilled. Maybe we've had our family, our marriages, our the marriages, one or two, whatever you choose, your marriages, your kids, they're gone. And now you're just left alone, kind of with yourself. You still may be married, have your husband there, but you're kind of with yourself. And now you're asking yourself questions again, but then you're saying, it's too late. It's too late to go after what I really wanted to be. It's too late to go after the dreams that I had for myself. It's too late. And so we play it safe and stay in the same old job.
Sorry, Ben just popped out of nowhere.
I love it. And we stay in the same old job with the same old friends and the same old routines. And what happens is our life starts living us instead of us living life.
My gosh. I mean, you're speaking such truth to so many women's journeys in midlife, right? Where you're correct in that timeline. Like you've been living for everybody else and fulfilling everybody else's dreams, right? So why does the risk become bigger though when we're in the midlife? Like why are we just like we want it, like there's a burning desire inside, but what's holding us back from wanting to move forward in it?
Well, we still care about people's opinions about us. We have when you have to be careful who you share your dreams with, because there's a lot of dream killers out there. Because most of the time, a lot of us were not taught to dream big. We don't know how to dream big. A lot of us are just trying to survive, let alone dream big.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Really. And for some of us, then we're getting towards retirement age and we're supposed to have so much money in retirement because we're all living longer. So if I quit this job where I get a steady pay cut to go be something else or go back to school and we're not making that income, then I'm not contributing towards that retirement fund. And then and then we're telling everything up, what nursing homes cost, what senior living costs, healthcare costs, will Social Security be around? And we're scared to take that risk because society says I need to work for so long and then I need to retire. In order to survive till this X amount of age, I have to have this much money. There's a formula that they use.
Yeah. Yes.
And so for my story, it's even more challenging because I'm single. A lot of women have a spouse that is working. They are dual income. So if they take away one income, they still have another income. I have no other income. So my big thing for me was 4 years ago, I hired a life coach myself and I said, hey, let's tear me down, build me back up and deal with all my limiting beliefs. So I can build a real estate team. We're selling when I retire so I can make passive income. That was the goal. And 3 months in, I realized I don't want to do another day of this. I want my life back. I want my weekends back. I want to go to birthday parties and weddings and anniversary things and all of that. And so the next question is, if I'm not a realtor or broker, what do I do?
Yeah.
I was a very lucrative. I was in the top 5% in the state of Washington. I made good money. I had great vacations. I had a beautiful home, and I gave it all up to find happiness because what I wanted to do for me was contribute back to society. I wanted to leave a legacy behind. I didn't want my real estate job to run me into the ground all for money. I didn't want it to be about money. I wanted to be about giving and caring, something that was going to fill my heart up and my soul, make me want to get up in the morning and show up to be able to help people. There was no
Yeah.
price tag I could put on that. But wonderful. It was one of the scariest things I've ever done. And it still is scary to this day. I'm doing it afraid.
So gosh, we can unpack so much of that because I feel like, so many women are experiencing this journey. Maybe not to the same extreme, maybe not to the same, but we're at a certain age, we're all risk averse, right?
Yeah.
And you're saying like, hey, I'm in my 60s and I did this 4 years ago. So it's not like a 20-year span of decision making. And it's not, what do you think was your sort of North Star or your anchor that allowed you to do it scared? Because there's so much conversation right now and stories out there of bravery and courage. And I think we also must place that language by associating it with movement or action. And I
Right.
think courage and bravery has less to do with the acts that we take than the decisions that we make that's coming from the inside. What has been your internal North Star that's like, this is scarier than scary,
Mhm.
but I'm going to do it anyways. And you continue to do it.
Well, the journey, people talk about journey and destination a lot, but I love what Joyce Meyer says. Who are you going to be during the journey? So
Mhm.
I mentioned to you in our previous conversation that we all have, and I'll get back to that question. We all have this consider your brain your office. And in that office, you have a desk. And what do we put on the desk? We put fear, worry, doubt, anxiety, limiting beliefs, lies that we tell ourselves, names that we call ourselves. That's all on our desk. And we feel like we're dealing with this. And what we did is we filed away those dreams that we had, all the things that make us beautiful, our core, deep core values, our superpower words, our abilities, our capabilities, our dreams, our wants, our desires are all filed away in that cabinet. And my goal is to help women to bring those out. But what started my journey was I was at home, been working with my life coach, and I heard, and I'm not going to, I don't pretend everyone, what I am a Christian woman, whoever has whatever power, higher power, whatever your belief system, I'm not here to change you, but I'm not ashamed of mine. So I do talk about it. So I heard this voice say, you're going to stand on a stage in front of thousands teaching and coaching life's lessons. And I went, me? Now you got to understand, there's not a shy bone in my body. So me being on stage, no problem. But really, me? What is this all about? And it took me a couple weeks to kind of get it and to surrender to it, that this was going to be my third act. What did that look like? What was that going to feel like? So I continued with my life coaching and dealing with my limiting beliefs and the lies I told myself or me comparing myself to others. I got certified as a body language strategist because I was just, enthralled with it. And then I got certified as a life coach myself. And during that time, I didn't work. Now, here's the big mistake I made. I made two mistakes. I kind of got ahead of God because he never told me to quit my real estate job, but I did because I wanted to be all in. I didn't want to fall back and run the risk of falling back and then having real estate take up all my time. And I wasn't going to go towards that dream. So I took it away and I was still living like I was an agent making X amount of money. And so I wasn't very good. I started listening to everyone. I was going to networking groups and taking this course and this course, and I started to lose my voice. So I spent a year and a half trying to create something that was not my authentic voice, which is what I coach on. I coach women to find their authentic selves, but I lost mine. And I ended up in a friend's basement. Now I went from $1 million+ home to renting that was 3,000 square feet to 1,700 square foot home I was renting while I was studying for 3 years. to living in a friend's basement. And some people could look at like that, Trish, look, you've fallen. Look how far you've fallen. No, there's a purpose for it. When we go through our trials, our tribulations, there are learning experiences. I've been coaching a lot lately on success equals knowledge, right? Failure is also knowledge. Success, when it works, we know to repeat it. When it fails, we know not to repeat it. Both are knowledge. So I don't regret the false start that I had. That was knowledge. It was a season that I had to go through. And there's been other seasons that I've been going through. When you're up leveling your life and changing your life, friendships change. God is working with me on my money. If I'm going to give you a lot, you got to learn how to take care of a little. Then learning how to receive from others and learning to trust and have faith that I will be on the stage in front of thousands of people teaching and coaching life's lessons. I hold on to that. That was my star. That was my star in realizing that everything I'm going through, there's a reason for that season, and to open my eyes and say to the universe, or whoever you believe in, what is the lesson you want me to learn right now? Help me to learn it so I don't have to repeat it. Let me be a good student of it. And there's so much joy in maybe people might say lack. There's so much joy in that. There's so much discovery. I'm finding out who I am in my creator and who my creator is in me. So whatever that higher power, whatever that belief system is for you, you can do the same. And then there becomes this trust and this faith and this walk that you take. And what it is building character. I've always been a good person and pretty much a kind person, though there was a time in my life you might not have said so because I was very untactful. But who I am pleased with. I'm in love with. I'm finding joy with, even in the little that I have right now. This journey is freaking amazing.
And I think that what you just said in all its power and all its glory is for us to revisit this idea. We started off with the title of this is like, risk has more weight in our midlife. But I think we need to reconsider what that really means, because I don't think it's assumed. Risk meaning loss, because you really created this beautiful language of no, it's actually more fulfilling than if you had stayed in your 7-figure income job and doing all the things and still doing all the vacations. I think what we're really trying to communicate here is not to be afraid of the risk. Because when we first started discussing this, you were like, it's because the reason why the risk has so much more weight in our midlife is because our idea and desire is that we want to leave something of value behind. But you don't leave anything of value behind if it's not anything of value. So money is not really it's not a transferable type of legacy. It's a transferable, tangible inheritance, but not a legacy, because legacy is a through line of genetic bio lesson and behavior. And, like when my mom passed away at 59 and I went back to my family's roots, the core, it was fascinating because I had met a majority of them and I kept thinking like, how are we going to know each other? How are we going to find each other? And the most curious thing is they said they knew exactly who I was because I looked like my mom. I sounded like my mom. I had mannerisms of my mother just coming off the plane, right? So in that legacy space, somebody in your family line also was bigger than life, right? It's not, it's an inherited gene. And this is the legacy somebody 4 generations ago left you. And now you're creating a life that you're going to leave a legacy 4 generations in of like, gosh, I've heard so many stories of my Auntie Trish. I've heard, because that's how we know there's been many, many family members in our lifetime, but you always hear of the one, you hear their stories repeated over and over and over and over again. Like they stood out in a way. And so I just want to bring that to light is what you're sharing with us is, yes, it is greater risk. There is more risk. but you leave so much more behind of value.
Well, I think too, when we get older, some things can change. Some people are still chasing the dream home with the boat on the lake and all those kinds of things. When I moved kept a lot from the 3,000 square foot house to the 1,700. But when I moved here, I only took my bedroom set, my office set, a chair, an ottoman, and a TV. I really in the house was feeling heavy, burdened by my belongings, burdened by the yard work, burdened by taking care of the home. It didn't allow me the place to create. And I call this place that I'm in 725 square feet, kind of like the mother's womb. This is where I get to be reborn. It's my Ernest Hemingway cave. It's where I get to be creative.
Yeah.
And we don't need as much as we think that we need. So if you have a dream, I say go for it. And my friend Tina once said, "Oh, you're brave and courageous for what you're doing. I could never do that." And I would poo-poo her. I would go, come on. But my word for this year was courageous, because if I hang on to the word that I'm courageous, that will give me more courage to do more things, to take more risks, to try more different avenues to be more authentically myself and forget this woke environment that is out there, kind of thing. And then my sister-in-law, the legacy to leave behind, my sister-in-law has always wanted to go after a career working with animals. But she's in a marriage with my brother where she is the one that has all the medical. He doesn't. So she needs her job. And now she's tied to it. And she wrote me this beautiful card for my birthday last year. How proud she was that I took the risks, and how scary it must be, but how proud she was that I was doing that most people think about, but never take a step towards. That really touched my heart. That in a way is a legacy. It's showing other women that are coming in their 40s and their 50s, let's re-examine what you're doing. What do you want to do? Is this how you want to live your life? Yes, we can all buy into what the media says, but do you know the most top billionaires don't even watch the news? Because most of the time
They are the news.
Yeah, but they don't, because they don't let it infect their day. And when someone said something to me today, and okay, I'm gonna lose my train of thought. Get it back, Trish. Get it back. This is real stuff.
This is midlife, y'all.
This is what the brain does. But we can have I don't know. It'll come back to me.
Yeah,
it was so good too. I love everyone. It was a great nugget.
Well, and see, this is, I think, the honest space also, that even when we are in the most like inspired space, right? Our age is reminding us to, because I think that's how like there's been so many, when I was younger, I remember always thinking like, oh my gosh, older people, they lose this, and they lose mobility, they lose memory, they lose it. But I don't think it's because of age. I think it's because we get stuck in a particular rut. And that's where I think you have been really exercising. Because when you said your age, I'm pretty sure like whoever's viewing this on YouTube is like, no way, no way. You don't look a day over 52, sis, right? Which is, I think, so much of that, and your desire to want to take these risks of like, I want to know what I'm made of. I want to know what I leave behind in value, right? And I mean, when you think about like, if we're going to go into that space of just bringing up stories that everybody knows across the land, right? The disciples gave up a lot.
Yeah.
There's 12 of them. Jesus was like, come with me. And they didn't know what that was about, but they gave up a lot. And they were also at the ages of like, should I be risking my fisherman position to do this? It's been over 2,000 years, and we know them even non-believers know the top of the head. Who's Peter? Oh, yep. He was one of those guys. Right. So I think we got to also define what legacy is. Legacy is being remembered for how you impacted the world, not necessarily just the impact you create, but how you were able to change the world by being the very thing that you were called to be, whatever that is. Whatever that is.
I think we're all called to greatness, whether that is going to elderly care home and reading to the elderly, whether it's teaching English to people as that need to learn English, whether it's going to a foreign country and digging wells for water. That's all great. It's all equal to me in God's eyes, you know? And so whatever your greater call is going to be, that's important. I think of Joyce Meyer, she's 80, 81, and she's written over 100
No
books.
way.
Yeah, she is. She's 80, 81, and she's written over 100 books because she wanted to leave a legacy behind. And that's her legacy because people will continue to learn from her generation after generation after generation. So, I often ask myself, what's the legacy I want to leave behind this year? What's the legacy I want to leave behind for my life? Number one, I just want to be known for having a kind heart. On my epitaph, that's all I want to say. She had a kind heart, and I will be so freaking happy with that. But, we have to find out what is it we want to leave. For some people, it was being the best mother that they could possibly be.
Yeah.
And then it's the best grandmother. And guess what? That's an awesome calling and an awesome legacy to leave it generation after generation like that. Great parenting skills that transfer to your children, that transfer to their children, and then and more children. That's a great legacy. One legacy is not better than the other. We just got to recognize that we all have a calling to some kind of legacy that we need to leave behind. What do you want yours to be?
Right. So do you believe that in this language of legacy and the talk of leaving a legacy, do you believe that part of the reason why we don't do it, or it's not as prevalent in our life as we'd like it to be, because we like the comfort zone of our life? Or is it because we don't know?
I think it's because we don't know. No one talks about it. We're not taught young in school to have dreams. The institution of school, when Dale Carnegie talks about that, was to put kids in school to create robots to work in the factories and to not have a single thought outside what they were taught. Think about that.
Right.
Think about that. And so we're not taught is that we can have individual thoughts. If I don't go with the majority, then something's wrong with me. And so, and a lot of people are talking that we don't have these. It's like when I first started this, when my life coaching said that I needed to create a safe for people to abide in. And I agree with that. But then I look at Tony Robbins, or I look at the Clemmer group that I did an advanced leadership thing where they break you down to build you back up, and it's in your face and it's hard and it's tough. And I go, I like that too. And I go, so who am I going to be? And I'm going to be the soft, gentle coach, or am I going to be the in your face coach? Well, I know that I'm somewhere in the middle. I know that I have my truths. And sometimes with my clients, and I'll see, I just want to go like this to them and go, come on, and everyone needs a little push or shove. I remember when my coach, we went away for a weekend, and she goes, oh, here's your homework. And I started looking at the questions like, oh, no, don't go. And I grabbed her because I couldn't think. I was so broken. I was so caught up in society and what everything wanted for me. I couldn't individually think. I didn't even know what I wanted.
Well, that is the toughest question.
Yeah. We're programmed by TV for what we want. We're programmed by society. We're programmed by the politics. We're programmed within our marriage that sometimes we don't even have our own individual thoughts, or we're scared to express them. And that's the beauty of midlife, right? Wonderful. When you in your 40s, you felt less of it. In your 50s, I felt even less of it. In my 60s, excuse my expression, but I could give a rat's ass what you think about me. I've lived life,
Right. Yes. I think there's definitely a different version that emerges from in your 40s. It's sort of the beginning stage of like, let's see. And then I'm in my 50s now, and I am more about it. It's so funny. A girlfriend reached out to me yesterday and almost kind of like saying, where have you been? You've just disappeared. And it's because I think I'm in the stage of really discovering who I am now. Like, I'm not trying to discover who I was when I was 40 or in my 30s. I'm not trying to discover who I'm going to be. I really want to understand me right now, because it's definitely not in the same space I was. I'm, like what you said is I am still in the pursuit of reaching for the stars, but there's this other piece of me that's very much like, but I want to do it in a grounded way. I want to do it where I'm grounded to who I am and what I truly want, not because it feels magical that I can tell people, oh, look at me. I'm so successful. It's so amazing. I'm so amazing, which I'm not knocking that, because that's sort of a driven part of my ambition in my 20s and in my 30s, right? And it started to shift in my 40s of like, yeah, what I want people to think of me doesn't nearly matter as much.
I understand that because I was in church singing praise songs and going, God, why do you want me to stand on the stage in front of thousands of people? Why? And he goes, because you care for people and you want to help them. And my answer was, then just keep me humble. I don't want to be put on a pedestal where people want to take me down in this kind of woke kind of culture. That's what scared me a little bit. I think that as long as you're coming from at the right place in your heart, it's just like
Yeah.
when I was a real estate agent, I go, what if I make a mistake? And I says, well, then you either use the money to fix the mistake or you find the way to fix the mistake. You fix the mistake
Right.
kind of thing. And that's the same way is how I'm going to show up with integrity, with excellence and things like this. And we can be proud of what we're doing and what we're achieving. I get you, you're doing it in a humbled, grounded way. Because
Right.
here's the difference. When we're younger in our teens, our 20s and our 30s, it's a me thing.
Right.
What do I need? What do I want? It's all about me, me, me. What can I get? And then it starts to shift over. And the whole focus is what can I give? How can I?
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
just did a post on this today. Well, I haven't posted it yet. It's going to be one of my posts this week. Or maybe I did a live on it. I was talking about humanity. What are we giving back to humanity? Before it was so inward, our focus. And now my focus is humanity. Like Joyce Myers used to
Right.
say, when your life is not going well, when it's the crapola, take your mind off yourself and go help somebody else. And there was a
Yeah.
time in my life when the housing market went down. I was at risk of losing my house. And I would wake up every day after hearing her and I'd say, God, who can I help today with no benefit to myself? And
Mhm.
started to look for those people. And my life changed because I was outward towards humanity. We're all called to love. That's the number one thing it says in the Bible is that we're all called to love one another. That's
Right.
about humanity. It's not about me. It's about humanity. And when I make it about humanity, my world is bigger and broader. When I make it about me, it's small and tight.
Yeah. So help us understand this balance though, because there's been a lot of like self-care, right? Like so how do you relate self-care and then not being about you and then giving and you can't give what you don't have, right? So those are all sort of
Right.
like these opposites meets and how do you balance that and what's the proper language for you to receive and accept because it could be so one-sided of like, well, but everybody tells me that I should have self-care, but you're telling me I shouldn't be self-absorbed. And then on the other note, it's like, I want to go after my dreams, but it's also to be able to give, but you can't give what you don't
Right.
possess, right?
Well,
So,
self-care is just putting the oxygen mask on first, truly. That I need to eat well, I need to have movement, I need to have sleep. I need that for myself, but I also need that to be a good human being in the world. For me, I need to do morning devotions. For others, it might be affirmations because it makes me a better human being with a better mindset before I step outside my door. Those things are self-care, but they also affect the world. Our self-care is world care, not in
mm,
self-absorption. Self-care is not self-absorption. Self-absorption is at the expense of everybody. So when I'm taking care of myself, if you're a mother of children and you're taking care of yourself so you can be around for your grandkids, but you're also teaching your children how to eat well, how to have movement, sleep's important, education's important, and all that. You have to be the example first. You have to put on the
right.
oxygen mask first and then put it on them.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. Self-care is a beautiful thing, but if it's at the expense of others, that now I'm no longer feeding my family or clothing my family because I'm only buying for myself and I'm only putting lecture on me, that's self-absorption. That's not
Right.
self-care. So my self-care is going to impact the world. Then what was the third part that you said there was?
Well, because then it's what you're saying is your goal is to give to the world, but you can't give what you don't have because you've been so self-caring type
I look at
thing.
that
And
because, I think about it for tithing where people are called to tithe 10%. And if you don't have the 10%, there's other ways to tithe. There's tithing of your time. There's tithing, tithing of your time. I have something in my closet right now that I really, really want to keep, but I know it's perfect for someone else. So I need to let it go and give it to them and bless them and watch the joy. My reward will be the joy on their face. I don't need to tell 100 people that I'm doing this at all either, but just that joy on their face. So there's other ways that we can give back: time, energy, contribution, and sometimes with a friend, it's just, here's my biggest thing. I'm a really good cook. And I've entertained a lot of people, and I've had a lot of people over my house for dinner. And when I was a realtor and I got home on Sunday, and I worked on Sundays, and I just wanted someone to call me up and say, "Hey, Trish, I'll cook you a meal." And it could have been a can of tomato soup and a toasted cheese sandwich. I would have been happy. It didn't have to be the lavish meals that I do, because a lot of people say, "Oh, we don't entertain like you. We don't cook like you." I would be embarrassed. No, then call Subway and let's split a 12-inch sub. It's the time.
Right.
It's the time spent together. It's the little effort that we can give to one another that doesn't really have to cost a lot, you know?
Right.
It's
Right. So you're basically saying how we can't look at this just from the suggestions of what people is defining self-care or defining giving to the world, or even their own individual definition of legacy. What you're really saying is every person has their own way in which this is harmonious to them internally, because that's what you're really saying is when it affects other people negatively, then is it really self-care then? No. If giving is with the intention of getting something in return, is that really giving then? Not at all, right? And if legacy is about like, oh, I want everybody to remember me boastfully in it, that's not really legacy,
no.
is what you're saying.
And I went through that big time. I did a lot for a few friends and my family when I was a very lucrative real estate agent, paid for vacations, paid for dinners, loaned money, really never expecting it back, because that's not, if I loan money, I don't expect it back. Opening my house for people to stay in so that when I needed help, those people weren't there. And that was hard. I never did all my giving and caring based to get tit for tat. I did it because I had a caring heart, and God afforded me the opportunity to be able to do that. And then I had to learn go back to the Bible, that even though I bless them, my blessings don't have to come back from them. God will take care of where my blessings come from. And that was really hard because I had two close relationships that I did a lot for, and I was expecting them to be doing something in return, even something small, and it wasn't happening. And, that lesson that you got to remember, when you help others, that's a gift, and you don't expect anything in return, because your blessings, whatever your comeback, will come in different ways. And the other thing is, number one, as a coach, what I see most people do is they compare themselves to others, and I did that a lot in real estate, because, especially any place that there's awards to be given for the most sold homes, the most pendings, the most, sales volume, all that kind of stuff. And then you start comparing yourself to others. And then you have to ask yourself truthful questions. Do I really want their life? Do I really want to do? Joyce Meyer says, you want my life, but you don't want to do what I had to do to get this life.
Right. Sort of the language of most highly successful people is that's always their sort of beware story, right? Everybody wants to have what they currently have, but unwilling to do the work that it took to get there. And I think that we have to remind ourselves that our journey is our own. And I think this is what this story is really about, and why we decided to get on this conversation, is that the risk does have more weight in our midlife, because it's all about self-assessment.
Yeah.
It's all about what is right for you, and because you shared your real true heart story of like, you went from a $3,000 million home to now somebody's basement, not to be a victim of the circumstance, but to say that that's the journey it has to take for you to leave because legacy is a big language for you.
Yeah.
Right. And that is how legacy is imparted, is in the struggle. It's never in the winning. It's in the struggle.
One of the things that when I was in real estate that a couple people said about me, because when we'd ever have sales meetings, I'd always raise my hand, ask a lot of questions. And then I said one time, well, maybe I shouldn't do that and allow other people to ask questions. And they said, Trish, they're not raising their hands. What you're doing is asking the questions that all the people in the back of the room are scared to ask.
Right.
So I realized that this whole thing is all about me sometimes being the voice and having the topics like your topic that others are scared to talk about, that we're
Yeah.
scared to be honest with, that we're scared to have a conversation about.
Right.
I really hope that you'll do the podcast on older friendships, because that was a big, huge conversation.
We might just have to come back for that, because
I will come back to
that's
that.
a topic on its own. I don't think there's any of us that have escaped. Anybody past 40, there's none of us ladies that has escaped two things. That's menopause and adult female relationship faux pas, right? Because, I think it was Mel Robbins that she was asking somebody that question, like, why is it so much harder to be in relationships as we're older? And it has two parts to it. She said, one is conditioning, because when we're younger, it's easier to kind of like be in a little nest. We get into these hives of spaces. But as we get older, our lives have become more concentrated on our personal spaces, professions, marriages, children, whatever it is. And it's harder to find people that's in that same space. And when you brought it up, it was more about growth, the growth, right?
Our vibration level changes. And so that'll change.
Right.
We'll save that for another time.
Yeah, we'll say. But I also think that's a risk that is heavy
It is.
to take, because
Well-
how do you move forward in new friendships when you've been burned by 20-year friendships?
Well,
And maybe
it's
not burned.
You could be burned, but the other side of that is that you just grow differently. You have,
Yeah.
whenever we're up leveling our lives, I talked to you, and I learned this from my coach. We all vibrate at a different number, and one number is not better. So sometimes you find someone, oh, I'm a 6, you're a 6. Oh, we're besties. Then someone might be 6 and they're an 8, and you're just this much, but you have enough in common. Then
Right.
sometimes you're like this, and then sometimes you're more like this, and sometimes you're like this. So it changes, and people are sometimes in our life for just a season. And that season could be 1 year, could be 10 years, and the season's over with. And if I need to allow a space for someone else to come in for me to up level to the next thing, because I need deep, intense conversations. And I have one friend, whenever I try that, I feel like I'm annoying her, and one friend never ever has them. And so the people that I get them with are other life coaches or people like you who are all up leveling and figuring out life. You're always in the continued growth mindset. There's always something new you're learning, something new you're trying, something new that you're taking in, and you're happy to share it because you want other people to be blessed.
Right.
You want other, especially if it's exciting. And when it's not working, you're still having conversations because you're trying to figure it out,
Yeah. Right. Well, and I think you said it is, I think there's an assumption that growth is everyone's trajectory. But that's sort of what I've been learning as I mature in my midlife, because it's really not. When I was growing up, maturity was related to age. Oh my gosh, not even close. I was like, that's the biggest false statement ever, because maturity is the willingness to grow within yourself. It has zero to do with age. And so I think that needs to be redefined as well individually. Just us, we haven't talked, we talk 1 year and it'd be 6 months until we talk again. Sometimes you're on the same level of vibration, because in that non-speaking of the 6 months, you're growing, right? The growth continues, or it's like there is no growth. Like you said, the vibrational frequency stayed at a 6 and yours went to an 8. And okay, we could totally get lost in this, but I do want to ask one question, because it does also relate to what we've been talking about, risking the life we knew, right? How do you know that it is how did you know when you decided to walk away from your very lucrative living and life, and also the friendship that's been around for 10, 15, 20 years? How do you know it's the right time to not do that anymore? Walk into the next level that you've been talking about.
Yeah. Whatever decisions I try to make in my life, it's about peace. If I have to go
Mm,
back and forth and have a debate with myself, then I'm not in peace.
good.
And sometimes it's making, and I talked about this, I did a lot of videos today. I talked about this in one of my videos that sometimes you make a decision and you go along that path, which I did for a year and a half, and it was the wrong decision. I don't look at that as failure. I don't go, oh, I wasted a year and a half of my life. I don't do that. I said, okay, that was knowledge. I now have an important part that was missing, and now I have that. That's not that I need to take this approach. And then recently I had another one that I thought I was going to be doing this. And also then I had another epiphany. It's the peace that we get within yourselves. In that whole year and a half, I really didn't have peace, and sometimes it's the quiet. So I'm going away in either late May or June for 2 to 3 days. I love Whidbey Island. I stay at the same place. It's on the water. I have a certain walking path. I used to go there 4 times a year, so, like, all the people in the shops knew me. I love it there. That's where I get grounded. I'm by the water, I'm grounded, and I am dealing with my higher power on what's the next step, because I want it to be blessed. I want it to be anointed. I want it to be favored, and get everyone else's voices out of my head. My choices don't make sense to everyone. I told you the story and I'll share this. I had a friend that was going to another friend talking about my finances. I didn't mind if she was going to come back and talk to me about my finances, but she didn't. Then she called another friend who she'd only met once because we were all going to go on a trip together, and talked to her about my finances, and then asked her to keep a secret from me. And she had only met her once. She didn't, if she would have came and talked to me, I could explain that for me, it was a God thing. It was something I had to go through. I had to lose everything for a reason. I had to learn to be better with money. I had lots of money. I lost money. I had lots of money. I lost money. I had lots of money. I lost money. So God says, if you want to stand on the stage in front of thousands making $10,000, $30,000 checks, you need to know how to handle your money. You need to respect it. So he took everything away. So I had to learn how to respect it and learn great habits.
Right.
Yeah. So there are, all kinds of lessons. That's also the friendship that I had to look at and say, this isn't safe for me. This person, I've done a lot for this person, but I don't feel that our friendship is equal. I don't feel like we're having really in-depth conversations. They're not making any time for me. I'm not anywhere on their top 10 priority list as friends, and I'm pouring out and chasing, and I don't chase people anymore. And I had to go realize all it does is make me feel bad about myself, that I'm not
Yeah.
worthy. For some reason, at the end of the conversations or things, I'm not feeling great.
Right.
When there's
Right.
someone else out there who wants to spend time with me, have good conversations with me, and will ask me and try to understand what I'm doing and what I'm going through, where it lifts me up instead of tears me down. But the way to get us, because society says to us, if I lose friendships, then I'm not a good friend. She's not a bad person.
Right.
She is just vibrating at a different level that I don't want to vibrate at. And she doesn't want to vibrate at my level.
Right.
So it's not healthy. This trying
Right.
and chasing and feeling less than, and that's not healthy for me. So I had to let it go.
And
So
only
when
you can assess that, right? Like it's not something that you sit around and talk to, because that's, I think, the other piece to this midlife is at some point we got to stop asking other people and we got to start asking ourselves, like,
well, and
what's right for us.
a lot of midlife women, what we've done is we lost ourselves. If you were married and you raised your kids, your identity was in that. You no
Mhm.
longer know even who you are. That's why I created that mastering confidence course, so we could bring out everything that you are and bring that back to the light so that you can make, decisions. You could get to your authentic self and your authentic voice. The word authenticity is overused, but I don't care. It's the correct word to get to your authentic self. I said to a friend once, when she was talking monotone and dressing in Levi's and penny loafers and a polo shirt, and I said, where's the fireball that, because she was redhead. I go, where's the fireball you used to be? And I said, before you were your child's mother and before you were your husband's wife, you were this person. I'm going to call her Elizabeth. And if you forget who Elizabeth is, you might end up in a divorce because now you're all monotone. You're not the fireball that you used to be. You've lost yourself completely into other people's lives. And women are great about doing that.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of marriages that at the end, when the kids are gone, the husband and the wife look at each other and they go, who the hell am I married to? I have no idea
Yeah.
who I'm married to. We haven't done anything really together unless it's the family. When you first date, you want to go antiquing, he goes antiquing with you. He wants to go to a Mariners game, you go to a Mariners game. You do everything just to be spending time. And
Yeah.
watch the joy on each other's face, and that's enough for you. And then you get married and life kind of starts to split off a little bit.
Yeah.
So this one lady says, do woozy dates. So all you married women watching this, here's a tip for you. What this lady, I learned that 30, 40 years ago, and it's always stayed with me. So this marriage counselor told a couple that one of them got to plan a date. And the gift from the other person was they couldn't roll their eyes and they couldn't complain. So she would plan her date and take him antiquing. He couldn't roll his eyes. He couldn't complain. He had to fake it. She took her to a football game. She couldn't roll her eyes. She couldn't complain. She had to fake it. So eventually they started doing everything that they used to do when they first met. But then after that, they started doing new things and discovering new activities together. And that helped them grow back together. And it's called a woozy date.
A woozy date?
A woozy date is what you call
Oh my goodness. Well, see, that's a whole nother subject again, because I think, romantic relationships in midlife also shifts giant, huge. And oh gosh, again, that's a whole nother, we could talk forever. But as we get near the end of our conversation, I ask everyone the same question. So let's say you're walking down the street, you walk into a coffee shop, and you see 25-year-old Trish. What would you say to her that she would actually listen to?
Please be too much. Be too much. That's it. Take up all the space that you need to take up. Be as loud as you want to be. Dream all the dreams you want to dream. Just be too much.
What a perfect end to a conversation that's been about bigness, right? Being about taking space and taking a risk, no matter the age, no matter what stage you are in life, whether you're high hogging it or in the middle or at the bottom, wherever you're at, that's really what it's about is, don't disregard or dismiss the bigness of who you are, and especially as a woman in midlife. Thank you so much, Trish. That wisdom and knowledge and your personal experience opening your heart up to us. And I just know that this relates to somebody in the audience. And if you were like sitting here going, oh my gosh, I hear everything she says and I'm in it to share this. Review us. But like my mom always said, if you got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. So leave us a review of the value that you've gotten from here. And we will have all of Trisha's information in the show notes so you could reach out to her. If you're feeling that magnitude of bigness and you are needing an extra support to step into it, would you say level it up? Right?
I call it the great power shift or stepping into
greater there you go. If because that's a nudge that women are feeling right now. A big power shift of but what's holding them back is I'm too old for that. Or, I've already done the things. As you've heard, Trisha's done all the things too. And she still continues to do all the things. Because I don't think that paying for people's vacation has ended for you. I think it's just taking you to the next level of what that looks like, right? And because that blessing is going to happen. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Trish, for being here. And thank you for all that you are to the world. Until next time, everyone, be big. All right. Thank you so much for being with me on today's journey. If you felt something resonate, if you saw yourself in this conversation, please take a moment to subscribe. Share it with a friend who needs this space and leave a review. It helps others find us, and it's a small way you can be a part of this powerful movement. Ladies, this isn't just a podcast. It's a community, a revolution, a place where midlife women come together to embrace our hard-earned wisdom and vibrant truth. So thank you for being part of this. Remember, It's time. It's time to step into our truth. No more holding back. Midlife is ours to own, and it's only getting started. So, until next time, take a breath, honor your journey, and live with audacity, courage, and joy. This is our time, our truth, unraveled, revealed, and celebrated.